Hey everybody, welcome to the Jen Carroll Show for a Monday, December 9th, and I'm happy that you are here with me. I'm going to open today with a little conversation about the zeitgeist. I'm going to talk a little bit more deep in the show about patriotism, and I have a take of it for you that I hope you enjoy. But let's start with the zeitgeist, and I was thinking about calling it the whitegeist because, that's what's coming in our future is the white geist. But I'm going to stay with zeitgeist because I love the word. It's super fun to say. And here's the best part of the zeitgeist. What I'm trying to do, and I'll open the show with just the things I see that matter to me. So it's pretty much my zeitgeist and what I'm reacting to as the news is breaking today. And this one today, what really got me was Elon using his very, very young son as a MAGA youth. If you haven't seen the video, I will put a clip on, or actually it is the clip, on my podcast page so you can watch it. It is absolutely on Blue Sky. If you put on Elon's kid, you will find it. It's how I verified it this morning. This child is a beautiful little child. He's probably about 4. He's very young, very, very young. And what you'll see is Elon making him start to spew the propaganda, basically. He's putting words in his child's mouth that I find to be reprehensible. But so be it. That's what I choose. It's really bugging me. I just can't imagine. Like, apparently he dragged his kid all over Mar-a-Lago this weekend and just, anybody out there who's ever been responsible for a child, can you imagine a child at Mar-a-Lago? Would you let them near those floors? Just the floors. Think of the just decades of filth that are on those floors, because nothing at Mar-a-Lago ever looks clean. Even the food doesn't look clean. Even the food looks like it said, I really can't get it up for this. I just cannot work up my shine for being served here at Mar-a-Lago. Well, this poor child, this little itty bitty thing, was dragged around Mar-a-Lago, and then Elon pimped him for clicks, I guess is the best way to say it. And I know lots of us have pimped our kids for clicks, but I don't think anything quite so despicable. So at the same time, there's a video, and this one I really adored, a video going around on Blue Sky of a community tree lighting. And everybody's standing around and they got the big countdown and all the things anybody ever wants from a community tree lighting. And they flip the switch, and I'll be damned if half those stupid strings of lights did not light. And you heard the collective, oh, because that's every home, everywhere, who's ever gone to the work of putting up those tree lights. And so I want to just take a moment, because it doesn't matter if you're a parent or not. If you have ever helped save a holiday, and I don't care if it's Christmas or not, you know who you are. You know how these things work. You know that sometimes somebody forgets to hide the eggs, or somebody failed to get a stocking stuffer, or the string of lights doesn't work, or you didn't get the right candy, and there is a right candy. You've been a hero. You've done the thing. You've stayed up late. You've maybe seen those string of lights. You work so hard to test it before you put them on the tree. And then one fails not 10 minutes after you get it on. And that's when you have to usher the kids off to bed, because you are going to commence a lot of drinking and swearing. You will then wake up the next day with bloody fingers, because no human is meant to do the things you have to do with tiny little sharpnesses. And there are no tools for this, nothing satisfying. And if you send me links to tools, I'm going to come for you, because I know there's gadgets, but they're all made of plastic, and I'm not playing in that world. Just make the lights work, for God's sakes. Anyway, for all the heroes out there who have saved a holiday and who are not like Elon, trying to pimp their child to become the new generation of Hitler Youth, I want to give you a warm, God damn it, hell yeah, you don't suck, you are amazing. And you are. There are so many humans that save holidays, and I think, and you can't even get credit for it, because it's supposed to happen under the radar. So I know, I see you, I know what you do. I'm part of your tribe. All right, and then I want to share one other story, because it happens around Thanksgiving, and frankly, I love saying the sentence that Gary Plummer made me pregnant. Now, I say that very specifically because here's what happened. Back in the day, let's go back. Whoa, time travel, just like Bird on Soap. We're going to snap our fingers and go back in time. Ah, yes, I did say Bert and I did say soap, and you're going to maybe have to Google that. Good for you. But back in time, if you go back in the 80s and the 90s when the 49ers were, I don't know, gods, it was awesome. KGO radio was a landmark. I think it was an internationally known, I know it was an American institution. It was a radio station, KGO 810 AM. Privately owned radio station that freaking did what a radio station's supposed to do. And all of us geezers will tell you how amazing it was to have KGO radio. In fact, I made friends with a bunch of the people that worked there because, well, that's me. And I've been to the station. I got to watch them do stuff. Lynn Derling had me up, like a whole thing. It's so cool. And they're not around anymore, which really sad. I mean, it was an institution. So KGO was the station that had the 49ers. And the DeBartolos are really good friends with the people at KGO. And it was great. It was just the way community is supposed to work as far as I'm concerned. And one of the things KGO did was have a football boot camp for women. I'm just going to give you a brief aside here. In my experience, women have often known the rules to football better than the men. We've understood the game in a way men have little tolerance for because we actually know the rules, and men tend to watch the football game and want you just to fucking do it, own it, beat it, crush it. And we're like, but wait, you can't, that's offsides. Isn't that offsides? Is that offsides? Which, by the way, one of the ones that confuses me the most, I think, because I just don't watch that closely. Anyway, this boot camp was the bomb, and it provided something I needed very much to get pregnant. Turns out, I didn't know, 34 when I wasn't married, I decided I better get on with it because I really did want to have, I thought 2 kids. What a sucker I was. I really wanted a child. So I started to try to get pregnant using a local sperm bank, which is actually an incredible sperm bank. We'll talk about that later. I've got half a book written about that already. But the way it worked is that I found out by going to the sperm bank that I had a huge infertility problem. Or fertility problem, I guess is what I had. I had a huge fertility problem. I was infertile. So this, by the way, caused me great grief because I felt like somebody owed me money. You know, you spend 20 years of your life or 15 years of your life, depending on what kind of, progressive woke career woman you are that is a lib. And then you find out you can't get pregnant. First, you really want your money back. I spent so much money on adding low estrogen to my body to make sure I couldn't get pregnant. And I'm like, what the fuck? What a waste. And you're also pretty disappointed because you don't know you can't get pregnant. That's just the thing. We just assume we can. So I was on meds. And if you know infertility at all, it is a highly choreographed activity with many experts telling you what to do in what order, and timing matters. Well, it turns out the night of the boot camp, which was in Palo Alto and full of football players, I had to give myself an injection. And so I did it at the table, quietly, privately. Only my buddy, my college roommate, Sandra, was there. And she already knows I'm weird. She was the Ethel to my Lucy for so many decades. It's painful to admit. Yes, you're going to have to go Google Lucy and Ethel too if you're too young. But yes, she was my wing woman whenever I caused problems. So I'm at the table and I get out my little shot and I gently just lift up my shirt and grab a chunk of my tummy and I pop that sucker right in. And if you're wincing right now, reframe that because it didn't hurt. That wince is not a wince you deserve. Needles are not bad. Needles are our friends. And this was a nothing shot. But here's what Gary Plummer did that made the whole difference. Those football players let us touch them. I mean, yes, they did. They were there. And what I am convinced of is that night, Terry Kirby was also there. Fabulous. These men, fabulous men. They let us come up, talk to them, touch them, take pictures with them, hug them, comment on their sound form. And Gary Plummer gave me a hug and a half. And I am convinced, after all the fails that I had, his testosterone was exactly what I needed to inhale for that pregnancy to take. And so, yeah, Katie is the result of Gary Plummer's generosity. He doesn't know that story. If you hang out with Gary, feel free to share it with him. that boot camp was awesome. So there you go. There's my zeitgeist. There's the stories. And screw you, Elon. Some of us really give a shit about our kids and go out of our way to take care of them. So that's the end of my zeitgeist. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and then I'm going to come back with the main topic for today, which is about patriotism and patriotism being a verb. We'll be right back. Thank you for being here. We're going to get into this now. Today, I wanted to talk about patriotism, and MAGA has done an amazing job of trying to own patriotism. It pisses me off because there is nothing patriotic about them. But let's start first things first. Patriotism, in my opinion, is a verb. It's an action word. Flying a flag, wearing colors, and saying words like patriotic don't make you patriotic. So let me start here. Do you remember in 1986 when the Challenger blew up, or in 2001 when the Twin Towers were hit? Maybe when America beat Russia in hockey in 1980. It's called The Miracle on Ice. I think there's a Disney movie about it. Kurt Russell, does that sound familiar? And I know, and now you're going to see my friend Grace post something about The Miracle on Ice on Blue Sky. So there you go. And we also had the end of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And then didn't mean to swallow that word. It's 1989. It's when the Berlin Wall went down. And then, of course, maybe the last great moment we shared, which unfortunately didn't last long, but really was one of those moments, was when we appreciated our healthcare workers as heroes during the pandemic in 2020. Though all those moments are moments of how we came together as a country, and we were all Americans. And ironically, we were proud to be Americans. We might even have been more proud to be an American during the bad times than the good, but it just doesn't matter. There are times when we go, God damn it, this is why I am so happy I'm an American. And that's what I'm trying to grab onto, because we don't get those very much anymore. A lot of it's because a lot of parts of how our world, our American experiment is working, and where things like our leaders really don't report to us anymore, that's a big, big, bad thing. Our leaders, once Citizens United and stuff happened, our leaders just don't seem to have accountability to us. But this is where I'm going to go back with patriotism, because I think if we demand it, and we might have to demand it with our very bodies, but if we demand it, we can maybe make patriotism manifest again. And I don't care about the new management that's in town. I really don't care, because the new management doesn't give a shit about patriotism. Oh, sure, they wrap themselves in flags. Trump kisses flags. Ugh. But they don't believe it. So Webster says patriotism is a noun. But that's because it used to be described as a thing. And I have for you the Schoolhouse Rock, which I can't play because of digital rights, but you can watch Schoolhouse Rock in here on what is a noun. Because it's, you say it with me, a noun is a person, place, or thing. Schoolhouse Rock stuck. I'm telling you, that sucker, that's stuck. We should still be doing it. It should be rerunning on every streaming channel. So I happen to beg to differ. I think patriotism can exist without people taking action. It's an essential ingredient for a thriving democracy, and we know MAGA is not patriotic. I know, they think they are, but their behavior tells a different story. And I have put on my website my 10 commandments, and I'm going to build out blogs for each of them. Don't worry, I'll explain what I mean. But right now, I just wanted to get them up there. And the one I'm citing right now is commandment number 7, which is past behavior predicts future behavior. And there is nothing about MAGA that is patriotic or focused on patriotism. So I'm going to agree. I'm going to force the issue. For my purposes today, patriotism is a verb. And on the blog, you can actually watch the other digital rights managed piece, which is Schoolhouse Rock, on what is a verb. Action. You know that one. Once you start remembering it, you'll remember the song, but it's action. So here we are. Here's why turning patriotism into a verb is what we need to think about. And the reason I'm doing this podcast is that if you're like me, you're just a person sitting in your house, in your car, or doing your walk, whatever, but you're just a person in the world, right? Like, what the hell? Sometimes I feel like I'm really in charge of my life, and sometimes I feel so small. And I don't want us to feel small because we aren't. We matter. We really matter. It's just that things are so screwed up. And patriotism is a really great way for us to re-engage. And so the reason I'm talking about it to people like us, you and me, is that I want to remind you what it is, why it's good, and then how you can reactivate your patriotism to start showing up as an American who cares about their damn country. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this. So here's the first thing. Patriotism fosters civic responsibility and healthy community engagement. So we've kind of slacked on our civic responsibility. We've managed over the decades to boil civic responsibility down to, did you vote? Did you vote? Oh my God, have you voted? Our civic responsibility is so much bigger than that. When I get started on my student council model, you know what I mean? I mean, we have a responsibility to actually do stuff. It's not beyond just voting. We need to show up places. We need to have community engagement. So when you feel a deep sense of pride in your country, you should also feel a commitment to its welfare. So I love my country and I care about it. I know everyone listening here agrees with me. You wouldn't be listening to me if you didn't. In a democracy, this sense of responsibility encourages us to participate in the political process through voting, volunteering, or advocating for policies that align with our democratic values. This is really important because advocating has become super passive, like, I agree, post, or I'll sign a petition, post. That's pretty passive, guys. And I'm not really sure we're making a difference. I think possibly possibly citizens changed the Blue Shield not wanting to pay anesthesiologists. Still have the Invisalign stuff in. Guys, give me a break on my enunciation here. But Blue Shield was going to cut payments to anesthesiologists when a surgery went longer than Blue Shield thought it should. Now, I want you to think about that because any human who's taking care of another human knows nothing goes according to what it should. And the catch here was the anesthesiologists were the ones who were going to get dinged and not paid if the surgeon, who's actually doing the operation, went long. I don't know, somebody coded. Maybe something in somebody's body didn't work the way it's supposed to work. Imagine that. Yeah, the people who were going to take it in the shorts were the anesthesiologists because the 2-hour surgery lasted 3 hours. They, of course, have zero control over that outcome. So the word on the street is that everybody rose up and said, no, this is a bad idea. I'm a little more cynical than that. I happen to think that they started to tune in that United Healthcare was already backfiring. The assassination of the United Healthcare guy was already backfiring. And people were like, they've been putting it to us for decades. I'm supposed to cry a tear for this man? I'm going to take murder off the table, whatever. That's a whole thing that happened over there. And you know I'm not in favor of murder. If you don't, go read my bio. I'm not in favor of murder. But I do read the room. And healthcare is not anybody's favorite at all right now. So I suspect Blue Shield pulled it back because somebody said, what the my hypothesis is it was the people in marketing in comms, like always my job, where as head of PR, you'd walk in and go, are you insane? What did you do? This is why you're supposed to get me to approve it. Kitra's here to tell you she has proudly conquered a hair tie and has brought it to me as in victory. Please ignore her. So my point is that patriotic individuals do more than just vote and sign a petition. We are motivated to support our democratic institutions to ensure justice, freedom, and equality. So that may mean we may need to do a little bit more. And I have some suggestions at the end because it's always hard to take action. We're really busy. I get it. I don't even have kids anymore, and I'm really busy. I can't believe it. But I have people like Kitra who are reorganizing my house for me, so there's always something. Patriotism encourages national unity. Now, this is one is so interesting because the way MAGA cult is using patriotism, it's not for unity. They're using it as a divider. And they're saying that they're more American, which is absolutely, literally false. But when it's done well, and when it's about what it's about, which is our country and democracy, it really does encourage unity, because it means that we are focusing on shared values, history, and ideals. It doesn't matter. The things that don't matter are differences in race, religion, or socioeconomic backgrounds, because we are focused on the values, the history, and the ideals. And this sense of common purpose strengthens the social fabric. And that social fabric is how we relate to one another. Our social fabric is not only ripped, I'm pretty sure half of it's running down the street with some kind of wild ass dog who stole half of it. I mean, MAGA has taken the social fabric, and they've had help. Our Supreme Court's helped. I mean, we've had a lot of people who have facilitated the ripping of the fabric, but our social fabric, the things that bring us together so that we constitute a whole, has been under attack. And it's really important for a functioning democracy. So when people feel connected to one another based on shared national ideals, they're more likely to cooperate and engage in constructive debates, even when disagreements arrive. So, and when those disagreements arise, you used to be on the same, like I use the metaphor, it's a sales metaphor, but when you're teaching people how to sell, you say you don't want to sit across the table from who you're trying to sell to, right? That's like an oppositional stance. You want to sit on the same side of the table. That's, we try to get the salespeople to understand this metaphor, which is like, no, you're their partner. You need to partner. You have to be on the same side of the table as the potential customer. It's the same thing in a democracy. We got to be on the same side, democracy side, or else it's not going to work. So yes, we do have a bunch of folks who are doing their damnedest to destroy our democracy, but that's not the majority. They might, again, have the power and the money. I get it. But we still have our voices, and we still have a country if we're willing to fight for it. So that's why I'm saying we're going to take back our patriotism, because it really encourages this national unity. Patriotism also means that we, the citizens of a democracy, hold our leaders accountable. And patriotism is a way we hold them accountable, because we question government actions as a patriot and as an advocate for our country's principles. Then that means we are required to question government actions. We demand transparency, and we advocate for protecting rights. This whole thing going on with Trump's commitment to prosecute the January 6th investigative committee is about the most un-American thing. And guys, there's a lot of un-American things going on, but that's one of the most un-American things I have heard, maybe ever. It's ridiculous. And so we have to hold our government accountable. We have to hold our democratic leaders accountable, and we have to ask that they are engaged and they inform us, because we're going to scrutinize their actions because we care. And I'm going to tell you what to do at the end, because I think we all need to start doing this. There is a huge abyss that has been created between our leaders. They're not our leaders. They're our representatives. They're not fucking leaders. Excuse me. They are our representatives. There is a huge gap now that exists between we, the citizens, and they, the representatives of us. I'll go back to my student council model. Remember, they'd come into our representative was there to represent our classroom, and we told that representative what they needed to do. And if they didn't do it, well, some of them might get their ass kicked on the playground, but we're not going to go that far. The point is, we need to get back to that, where we hold them accountable. And I don't mean by posting a post. I'm freaking good at that. It's not getting me anywhere, right? This kind of work. Doing the work, going to learn about something and then bringing it to you and helping you understand it, and hopefully revitalizing your energy around this. That's something I can do. That's something you can do. So there we go. Patriotism prioritizes values, norms, and institutions. So not only are we going to hold our representatives accountable, and I'm literally going to go in and change the word leaders in my blog post as I'm looking at this, because I want it to be representative. That's what they are. It's a representative government. We also have our values, norms, and institutions, which I understand is the welcome mat of the MAGA cult. They just want to tromp right over our values, norms, and institutions. But the thing is, they exist for a reason, and they're incredibly important to democracy. And patriotism demands that we protect those values that underpin the government, like, I don't know, freedom, equality, justice. By the way, those three things is what they're going at the hardest, right? Patriots advocate for policies that safeguard our values, oppose authoritarian movements, and erode democratic norms. Patriotism is the bulwark, the defensive wall against anti-democratic forces. So if you put that flag out, you're not putting the flag out to go, woo woo, I'm an American. You're putting your flag out that says, I'm fucking holding you accountable. That's what an American flag means today. You are going to do this, and I am going to oppose you every step of the way. And I'm using the word oppose because Mark Elias wants us to use the word oppose and wants to get out of the mental framework of resisting and actually stepping up a level and opposing. It's not just resisting anymore. I oppose that. I oppose you treating our values, norms, and institutions associated with democracy as the floor mat under your feet. I will oppose it. And like I said, I have some actions you can take to start opposing. But think of it, I'm just trying to get in your brain and get you to think about this a little bit differently. And I know, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead, Jen, be quiet. Let me take one more break and then I'll come back. All right, we're back. Thank you for that. I appreciate the ads. I make like 0.05 cents on every ad. 0.05. That's half a penny. It might even be less. And I've never, ever in my history of my podcast received a check. Just saying, I'm just playing the game to see if I can do it. We'll see what happens. All right. Patriotism wants us to do better, which is the essence of the American dream. So this is really important because a long time ago when we were all kids and we grew up, there was this thing, the American dream, and it didn't promise, it promised the pursuit of happiness, right? The American dream was you can do stuff here. And the thing is, you still can do stuff here. It's pretty cool. I mean, my whole interview with Trey Cowder was just me doing stuff here. And my going over to this institution, I'm having I'm not having a war with them. I'm going to have a moment with them. But that was me being able to do stuff here. I still have agency, which is one of my favorite words. And I'm going to bring up agency a lot. But agency means you have the power to go take action. And I think every human being from age 2, probably about 2, could be as early as 1, from age 1 to age 101 and beyond needs to feel like they matter and that they have the power over their lives, like they can manifest things happening. And that's kind of the essence of the American dream, right? You have the agency to go manifest. So patriotism doesn't mean blind loyalty. And we're going to talk about loyalty in a whole nother podcast because I got a lot to say about loyalty. But patriotism doesn't mean blind loyalty. Patriotism's active and it requires thought and it involves a personal commitment to improving our nation. Patriotic citizens are often willing to engage in self-reflection, critique and reform, and ensure that our values are preserved and nurtured to adapt to the changes required by an evolving society. I actually think I called it a thriving society. Remember, I was such a little kid at the end of the 60s. Like, yeah, I was still a little kid, but the space program was the most exciting thing. I mean, I think it changed second grade for me. The space program just was this promise of a future. And I don't want anybody to tell me the bad things about it because we're not going to focus on the bad things anymore. We're just going to glean from this what was good. And what was good is that we had a common mission in life as Americans, which was to effing go to the moon. And we did. And when you're a little kid, that's amazing. We have not provided those kinds of inspirational moments for the generations that have followed us. I feel like the older millennials might have gotten a taste, but then we went into internet, social media, nonsense, blah, 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 siloed existence, horrible crap. My daughter will spit it at me. And millennials and Gen Z have entered, and now Gen Alpha are entering chaos. So patriotism is actually a way to provide order. I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance because I loved America, not because I was just one of the droids they were looking for. Look at me dropping some Star Wars right there. All right, sorry. I should not do that. I'm really not that good at that. Okay, so the deal is that patriotism wants us to do better. We want to go back to that fundamental belief in the American dream, and we want to have a country where optimism and energy support progress through innovation and collaboration. Yep, we used to work together to manifest good things. And we don't have to include the MAGA cult. At this point, I feel like if they don't want to play with us, that's fine. But a whole bunch of the rest of us who want to see the world be better, that's right. We're going to move forward. We're moving forward with patriotism and bringing optimism and energy to support progress through innovation and collaboration. And I don't mean Dogecoin. If you think it's crypto, you're on the wrong channel. Change the channel. You're going to need to change the channel. Patriotism also embraces the rule of law, and respecting the rule of law is fundamental and patriotic in a democracy. If you don't believe in the rule of law, and I don't mean whatever the hell new management's talking about, because that is not rule of law. That is weaponizing law. That's very different. And I'm not even convinced there are laws to support their weaponization. I'm pretty sure the things they're going to go after people for are not against the law. So we're going to see Upside Down World. Is that from what's that? That cool thing. What's the show that we all were watching a few decades ago or a few years ago? That Creative Things or something that was Upside Down Land. Welcome to Senior Citizen Podcasting, where I cannot pull the name of the damn show out of my head when I need it. But the goal here is that we're not going to go to the Upside Down World. They're going to try to convict people of things that are not illegal. And we're going to need to remember that patriotism means, no, we have a set of laws here. And even if the Supreme Court can't read them or understand them, there's still folks like Lawrence Tribe and Mark Elias and a whole bunch of younger people too, who absolutely understand how the law works. And we need to focus on that and remember patriotism is the rule of law, not the distortion or corruption of law. We want fairness, stability, and that's crucial for proper functioning in a democracy. And then finally, patriotism fucking belongs to us. And us, I mean the woke, the left, the whatever adjective they want to describe pro-democracy Americans at this point. I'll take it. I don't care, because I really want the American experiment to continue. And I really want people to feel like the American dream is still attainable. And I really want people who do bad things to be punished. And it's funny, I want, honestly, I could have given a shit after 40 years if they caught the Golden State Killer, because he had become inactive and he became really old and whatever really, in terms of resources, energy, all those things, zeitgeist. Yes, we should put the Golden State Killer away. He did bad things. But honestly, I'm not as passionate about that, which I think surprised some people, but it's totally true, as I am about prosecuting MF and Trump. And, by the way, all the assholes that facilitated and enabled him. They're the ones who broke laws. And that bugs me, because that's a stain on our country that's going to haunt us forever. And it affected generations of Americans in ways we really are just beginning to understand. So patriotism is ours, guys. It bolsters democracy in times of crisis. It motivates us to defend our democratic institutions and values. And even when our nation faces challenges, the idea of patriotism is our moral resolve to preserve our democratic governance. Big words. So, okay. So, hey, Jen, that was uplifting. Thanks. All right. So, listen, I want you to tap your inner patriot. We have work to do here. I'm waving my magic wand, and effective immediately, we are no longer pretending anyone in the MAGA cult is a patriot. They are not. I have not heard of any plan coming out of new management that supports these ideals. That means we're going to need to take the action, and any and all pro-democracy action counts, right? So equal points. Do something big, points. Little, points. You all get points. Free points to anyone doing something that's pro-democracy. And that includes if listening to news podcasts or taking kids to see their state capitol. Have you done that? Have you really engaged your kids in how our government works? I bet you haven't. Anyone who doesn't know how government works, go tell them, go show them, actually get them in the car and go. Because one of the better ways for learning to happen is when it's tapping more than one sense. Meaning like of your five senses. If you really want to help someone learn, you've got to engage them on more than one sense. So I think put the kids in the car. If you haven't, Sacramento's where I think of because I've hung out at the state capitol up there. It's super fun. It's very accessible. You still might have to go through gun detectors and crap now because, America 2024, rocking the guns. But it's very cool for kids to see that. And when I took Katie around the Capitol, in the nation's capital, when she got to meet like Dianne Feinstein and got to stand outside Hillary Rodham Clinton's office and see the things she'd heard about in our home and be part of it, the National Archives, seeing the national, you could see the flag, the Betsy Ross flag. It's not the Betsy Ross flag. It has a different name, but you know what I mean? These things come to life. The Smithsonian, if we don't have military guards protecting it, we need to, because that place is amazing. That's the kind of way you can activate your democracy. And of course, being a political nerd my whole life, I love DC. I remember I was just sitting on the Lincoln Memorial because you can see the whole mall out in front of you. And a huge rainstorm had come through. And it was dark against the Capitol at the other end. The skies were dark and foreboding in the east. And then, but the west was behind me, behind the Lincoln Memorial with my back to me. I couldn't see the sun because I had the huge memorial behind me. But what happened is the Washington Monument lit up with the sunlight. I'm going to get emotional. It just lit. It just lit up against that dark background and against the Capitol in the background. And it just shone like a beacon. And for me, I have moments. Like that's a moment for me. It touches me. I have feels. So that's the kind of thing you need to expose your family members to if they've never been exposed to it, because it's a big deal. And you don't have to go all the way to the United States Capitol, although it's well worth a trip. And you can stay at hotels out on the periphery because there's a very good train station there. And I personally endorse the Embassy Suites because they will feed you in the morning and they will provide alcohol for seniors in the evening at no charge. It's included. Or it was. So there's ways you can approach the Capitol, but those kind of things are really powerful. So here's some things you can do to get your patriotism going. You can put out a flag, but be intentional and know that flag says, I'm on to you, motherfuckers, and I am going to watch you like a hawk, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And that's what an American flag means. You can subscribe to Mark Elias's newsletter. It's pretty heady in that it's about the law, but he's the man and his team. They are funded through, it's a nonprofit. They're funded through all of us. So a lot of my friends, I haven't done it because I just need to figure out my money, which is what I'm doing this month. But a lot of my friends are benefactors, and you can be too, and you don't have to give very much, but it matters. But at a minimum, subscribe to his newsletter. So link and blog. And I can't even keep up with all the newsletters. And like I said, sometimes the content's a little heady, but scan it. It's very scannable. You can just take a quick look because you'll find something that really matters to you. Could be education, could be women's health, LGBTQ rights, all kinds of stuff. You'll find something that matters to you, but his pursuit really is around democracy and patriotism and these ideals. So there's your big guns. Listen to more podcasts and less institutional news. I'm not sure how much this has gone out beyond the nerds that hang out on Blue Sky. And if you are not yet a nerd that hangs out on Blue Sky, I encourage you to join us. I find it some of the best way to access news because it's still pretty democratic in terms of how things are presented to you. I do not see the algorithm slamming the hell out of me. So you have a lot of accessibility. But there's podcasts too, and I have for you a list. Some links. I have the Daily Beans, which I personally really enjoy, but then, I tend to really enjoy Smart Women that from my youth. Smart Women have been my saviors my whole life. So I really enjoy the Daily Beans, but there are others out there, and I've listed a couple that are aggregated around good folks who have aggregated lists of good people who do good podcasts. So those links are here too. So you can just start clicking around. Maybe you just haven't got out of there, but I'm going to tell you institutional news. And I mean the channels that most of us grew up with, CBS, NBC, what's the other one? ABC. God, I could go on and just all the faces and names we've all trusted on those networks. It's not the same anymore. And that includes cable news. Just drag out your skeptic and start to look to some other places for news. The reason this is a patriotic and this is a way you're putting your patriotism to work is that you're getting information now that's not going through a filter. It's a filter of democracy instead of a filter of corporate obedience. So that's why I want you to try to step out, and I need this message needs to get beyond the nerds on Blue Sky. It needs to get out to the mainstream. And I have one friend who works at Safeway who I always said, "Do you know about this?" And she's like, "I do not." And I go, "Okay, now I know I need to get this word out." This is the kind of thing she doesn't know about. She doesn't know about some of these cool podcasts because she doesn't have time. And I don't know, she's working for Safeway. I feel like she's constantly sick too, but that's a separate story. All right, know your representatives. Guys, when's the last time you took a look at who it is that represents you? Even I have grown lax on this front, and I've decided I'm going to start to know who it is exactly who's working for me. Like I found out that one of our representatives barely represents Santa Cruz. That pisses me off. So I want you to know your representatives, and here's the mind shift I want you to have about knowing your representatives. They work for you. I know they forgot that. And maybe they didn't forget on the day they got elected. I think they all get really excited. I'm like, oh my God, you all voted for me. I'm going to totally represent you. And then day 2 comes and all the money comes at them and they suddenly forgot what they were there to do. There's exceptions, of course. You've got I still think of Sherrod Brown and the dignity of work. This man is a democracy icon. And I don't think he got reelected because people are stupid. So know your representatives. Remember they work for you. But here's the student council point. Going back to student council. You need to give them feedback, positive or negative. I have been derelict in that. And part of the reason why is they don't seem to give a you know what. I have definitely pursued Jimmy Panetta down here. Is Jimmy Panetta's our something? Lisa, help me on this one. Jimmy Panetta is our something. I have reached out to Jimmy Panetta. I actually did a whole proposal of a resolution for the California legislature for Jimmy Panetta to take in there and change things for cybersecurity safety for seniors. I thought it through, soup to nuts. I did the whole thing I tell people to do. I figured out the use cases, several. I figured out how it could happen and what the financial case was for it and everything. And you know what I got back? Oh yeah, nothing. I got nothing. I even sent one snail mail. Well, that's not acceptable. I'm not going to accept this anymore. And you shouldn't either. There's no reason Marjorie Taylor Greene should be out yapping about what she's going to do to crush a bug that's super anti-democracy and not hear from her constituents about that. I don't even care if you voted for her. It's not okay to go crush a bug. And if you think it is okay to crush a bug, you are not an American. Own it, baby. You're not an American because that's not how we roll. Americans don't roll like that. And it's time we start getting back in our swim lanes and managing this crap. So go know your representatives. Soup to nuts. Know who I'm in a county, so I have a supervisor. I don't even know if I know who my supervisor is. Now Lisa's going to yell at me about that too, because my friend Lisa keeps me on track of all this stuff. So know your representatives, soup to nuts, all the way from here, all the way to Washington, and be prepared to provide them with feedback. And just do it. I don't care if they don't get back to you. We're going to start making them understand they work for us. And they're our representatives. So we've got to go back to that, guys. We've got to demand it. And the only way we can do it is through us, the regular people. And then finally, my big one that I'm pushing everybody to think about, because as we're looking at new management's cast of characters and who they're putting in office, these are all horrible people. Horrible people. I'm not talking about whether they're qualified or not. Whatever. We've all worked with unqualified people. That stuff tends to resolve itself. What I care about is these are people with no integrity, no authenticity, no character, no sense of decency, misogyny, hateful rhetoric, hateful behavior, all the things that are despicable. What we're going to do is we are going to take it in our hands to start correcting social injustice. So I'm doing mine locally. I have a big meeting with a local institution. I talked about it. That's the whole Pete Hegseth podcast that I did. I'm going to tell you more about that once I get through it. I don't want to screw the pooch and share it all early. I want to make sure that I go do what I need to do in a civilized, mature way, both of which are, both words not typically words that describe me, civilized and mature, but I can flex that muscle. I was in business. And I'm going to share that with you, but also any other kind of social justice. What got me about this whole thing is that when we see this stuff, but we don't do anything about it. And so the secret to what I'm doing on my social justice with this institution is I'm using something that has a story attached to it, but as I'm going to stay low and go slow on this. And there is a sloth that goes with that story. And I will share that story because it has to do with the Golden State Killer survivors. And it's a really cool story. But right now, just for us, just remember, I'm not asking you to get on the horse, raise the flag and blaze into battle. I'm asking you to identify where you know something has gone wrong and you can work to go get it fixed. And you can stay low and go slow. Just need to get the change to happen. So that's what you need. Those are some things you can do to start taking. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. These are things you can do to start taking actions, all on my blog post. So if you go, Jen, I listened to you when I was running. What did you say? It's all there. I'm writing it down. And with that, I'll be right back and we'll go through the blue list. All right, we're back. We're back with the blue list. It's going to get its own little individual music as my awesome kids. It's not my kids. It's my kids through another mother who are working on my music package. I'm so excited. Once again, inspired by the Daily Beans because they were friends with, for crying out loud. Now I can't remember who did their music, but they were friends. I think Allison was friends with their music folks. And I thought, I have friends who do music. It's time to lean in. So while the kids are off doing my music package, here's the blue list. What the point of the blue list these are tips for authoritarian lifestyle, and I am always going to bring you what's new, but you need to know jcarroll.com/the blue list, and you should be landing on the page. It's also right at the top of my navigation on my website. You should be able to come in here and be able to sort in my remarkably Flintstone method of setting up this web page, because until I can convince someone to give me a little tiny bit of consulting time, I cannot get this organized by tags. But I'm pretty proud of my anchor links, which requires some HTML. So if you don't know what any of that means, good for you, by the way, good for you. So here's what's on the blue list today, the new things. And then, like I said, everything sits here. It all goes down. I'd also like to be able to have people be able to rank it by stars if they thought it was really helpful or not, so that we can start to see what's really popping as the things that are the most helpful. But today what we're adding is GLAAD's focus on keeping LGBTQ plus families safe. So GLAAD, if you know them, huge nonprofit, been working in this area for decades. Probably my first exposure to pro-gay politics. I ended up writing a whole thesis on AIDS. It was about the messaging of AIDS because, of course, me and words. But GLAAD has been a force for good for so long. So they have a set of recommendations and best practices. The link is there. Utah, interestingly enough, there was a news story about Utah immigrant advocates hosting a Know Your Rights sessions in Utah, answering tough questions. What I want to tell you is the link is there about the story. And then I've also found buried in that story information from the National Immigration Project on denaturalization and the revocation of naturalization. Wow, are those SAT words. What Trump is planning to do, and when I say Trump, I mean Stephen Miller, because duh. Stephen Miller is planning to tell kids who were born in the United States they can't be citizens anymore. And they have to go back to where they came from. The womb, apparently, because they came from here. I don't know where they would go back to, other than the womb, which at this point probably not off the table. So you need to understand denaturalization and the revocation, meaning the refusal of your naturalization. So if you're actually a naturalized citizen, Stephen Miller also says, nah, we're going to do takesy backsies and we're going to reverse that naturalization or revoke it. Sorry, the word is revoke your naturalization. You need to read this thing. It's from the National Immigration Project. You can probably just put those words in and come up with it. But if you want to come to the blue list, the link is there. And then there is Safe Choice. I don't know if you've known about Safe Choice, but if you know someone in a state where abortion is illegal, I want you to pay attention to something called Safe Choice. I have a link there. It's an organization designed to help women who are in hell. What else can I say? If you know a woman that's in hell, I want you to check out Safe Choice. You can Google that straight up right now, or you can come to you can always come to the blue list and get those links, because I know this stuff needs to be accessible. So that's the blues for today. A little bit of a long podcast, but I'm worked up after a weekend. I hope y'all have a great week. I'll be back midweek with more, but in the meantime, be safe, take care of yourself, and go be a goddamn patriot for the love of God. Go show your patriotism.